Jake, and this is Neverland Navigation
Navigation
Radio,
Radio.
where today we will be continuing our little series talking about the histories of some of the classic Disney attractions. And today we are landing on Peter Pan's flight.
Going.
Thank you. This was a favorite of mine as a child.
Me too.
Yeah. So I'm excited to talk about the history of this. It's one of the ones with kind of an extensive history of changes and renovations and stuff.
All right.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot to talk about.
The actual ride to me, for my whole memory, has always been the same.
Really?
I think.
Ours, the Disney World version has been the more consistent.
Okay.
Of the.
Interesting.
Of the two of them.
Okay.
Well, there are multiple others, but
okay.
those are the two original versions of Disneyland and then Disney World. And we'll get into what's happened to both of those versions. But before we fly through that history, we first wanted to say thank you so much for watching. If you're on an audio platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you are in the mood to leave us a review on the podcast, that would help the show out tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we love to read them. So we'd love to see you down in the reviews. And if you would like to see a visual version of the podcast, and you can check out what we've got on our desk for this week's episode, check out the YouTube channel Neverland Navigation Co., because that's where we upload the weekly visual version of the show.
Yes, and if you are thinking about taking a vacation of any kind, whether it be Disney or any other kind of vacation, please consider sending me an email at neverlandnavigationco@gmail.com, because I am a free-to-you travel agent, and I can get you the same deal as you could spend an entire day finding yourself, or better, most of the time better. And I get paid commission by wherever you're going, but even though they don't charge you more. So as a thank you, I give my clients free trip t-shirts that are from our 5-star Etsy shop. They're custom, they're whatever you want them to be. And it's just a great win-win when you get the same price you would have paid or better, plus you get free trip t-shirts, plus you're helping a small business, which is good karma.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely a great way to add a little extra pixie dust to your vacation.
Yeah, and I can be the one that has to get up at 6 a.m. and make your dining reservations. You don't have to.
Absolutely. And that's worth it.
I can tell my clients like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That definitely is helpful. That can be stressful, the reservation part of it. So, yeah, that's definitely worthwhile. When we're talking about, it's so funny, you're saying book your trip with me at Neverland Navigation Co. But this is the namesake of our whole operation here.
You're right.
Yeah, I didn't even put that together really until now, funnily enough. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Remember when we were deciding on our name?
It took us forever.
Oh my gosh, it was so hard.
We had a lot of ideas. We had a shared iCloud note that we were adding to. And this one came out and we were like, yep, that's it. Right away.
Yes.
It's so funny how that works.
Yes.
You know, we went back and forth on it for a really long time.
And every time I call the Disneyland travel agent support phone number, they're always like, oh my gosh, I love your name. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, hey, let's talk about this attraction, the Peter Pan of it all. Before I start on the very long sordid history here, I want to give some credit to the Disney Classic blog, to Wikipedia, and to Alex the Historian on YouTube, all of whom had very well sourced information and quotes from Imagineers and stuff that helped me put all of this together, and I couldn't have done it without them in doing my research, so thanks to them. And I want to start, as we always say, we start at the beginning, but this is truly we have to go back to the turn of the century.
Oh my God.
In Marceline, Missouri, because that's where young Walt Disney sees a production of the play Peter Pan for the first time.
Interesting.
A stage adaptation of the J.M. Barrie novel, and it's where he first becomes enamored with Peter Pan and with the idea of being able to fly, which actually ends up being a huge thing for Disney parks in general, but it really started here. And then in 1953, with the opening of the film, Walt Disney's Peter Pan, which opened with the hopes to match the box office success of films of the era, Cinderella and Pinocchio, which
Mm.
had been huge for Disney. So they were looking to keep up the success. And Peter Pan did a good job of that. It was like a hit in the theaters. It wasn't one of those ones where it didn't do so well, but then later
Really?
on, and it's like, it
Oh, it
wasn't like
wasn't like
that.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
okay.
There are some movies that are, even more recent movies, like a Goofy movie, where when they come out, they're kind of received kind of however, but then as time goes on, they get,
Yeah.
cult classic type
Yeah.
of
I saw
status.
Max in the theme parks the other day.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
But Peter Pan was always a massive success, and they knew quickly that they wanted to incorporate it
Cool.
into Disneyland.
Immediate blockbuster, you're saying.
Immediate blockbuster,
Yeah.
runaway success.
Yeah. I have seen Peter Pan done as like a stage play,
Yeah.
and I do prefer the animated Disney version.
Did you see? Was it a musical or was it like a play?
No, it was like a play.
It was like a play, and were they like hoisting them around on wires?
Yes.
That makes me nervous. I'd
There's
rather
a
be
lot
in a
of that
boat.
these days. You know?
Yeah, there is a lot of that these days. True. So for the film, since you prefer the film, the film's aesthetic was inspired by storyboards by David Hall and concept renderings by Mary Blair. Everything good in the world, of course, comes from Mary Blair.
Yeah.
And then on July 17th, 1955, Disneyland opens to the public with 3 classic Fantasyland dark rides. Ooh, do you want to guess what they are? Well, one is Peter Pan.
Oh, okay.
What are the other 2?
Mr. Toad.
Yes.
And Snow White.
Yes.
Woo!
Oh my gosh, great job.
Oh, I know my Disney trivia.
Yeah, look at
what
you.
Do you know? You should see all my cruise medals.
You do have the medals to show
yeah,
for it.
I just got a bunch more actually.
Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to make you like a mounted like rack for them or something.
I'm sure there's something fun and creative I could do.
Yeah, this is the room for it.
All right.
All right. So Peter Pan was seen by Walt as the perfect film to translate to a ride because of the idea that the guests could fly over the show scenes, which actually is something that we talked about for Soarin' as well.
Yeah.
Years and years and years after Walt's death. But it's funny how this ends up being like the idea of flight is such a constant throughout Disney Parks history.
Yeah.
Delta Dream Flight, Take Flight, all of these like flying attractions, and this was the first one.
I don't quite get why sometimes this racks up a 4-hour wait now.
Yeah.
But I get it for back then.
Right.
If there was a 4-hour wait back then or longer. Because can you imagine this? I just feel like the first audio animatronic had just been done not that long before,
right.
And now we're flying.
I know, it's true. It must have been like otherworldly to them, you know.
The pace of technology that they were coming out, and everything was just like brand new.
Yeah, breakneck pace of innovation.
Yes,
amazing. And this, it's funny because we were talking about the advent of the audio animatronic and how it was based in the mechanics of like automatons and automized items like that. And then this is kind of similar where they mashed a bunch of things that already existed together to get what they wanted.
All right.
It's funny that Disney does that to innovate. They take pieces of stuff here and there to get the desired effect. The Imagineer who oversaw the design of the original Fantasyland was named Bill Martin, and when he built Fantasyland, they had to build it kind of on the fly, like a lot of things at Disneyland, because opening was approaching really fast, and these were some of the last things. The Fantasyland dark rides were some of the last things to be thrown together before the park opened. So they were cheap show buildings decorated to resemble a Renaissance fair.
That's crazy.
With like wooden walls that were supposed to look like tent.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was the what seemed like an afterthought.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's the Fantasyland is the first thing I think of when I think of Magic Kingdom and when I think of original Disneyland.
Totally. It's like the heartbeat.
It's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
It's their animated movies coming to life.
Right.
Wild. Okay, go on.
Yeah, it is funny. And I think part of the reason that they were some of the last things to come together had to do with the fact that they were working with other companies that were installing things into the ride, so they had to deal with the timelines of that, and they were right up against they were right up against their budget at all times in
I'll bet.
Fantasyland.
Aren't they always still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they
That's
really
just
are.
right.
Some things never change.
But it's kind of like that quote you said earlier that I was saying it's so perfect for us,
Oh
where
yes.
you said, what say it,
The Imagineers had a saying as far back as Disneyland, I
which is now
believe.
going to be my mantra.
I know, we should get that framed. The quote is, it's done when it's due.
Yeah,
With,
because as creative perfectionists, we could just go back and keep going and going and going and going.
and even with this show,
Yeah, with this show,
when
yeah.
we like try to prepare
Mhm.
information like this, sometimes that's what happens.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a good mantra to have in mind. If you're
It's
like
kind
us,
of funny if you're the kind of person that just won't stop because you keep, you know, making little changes and stuff like that. Yeah, perfect. And it's kind of like that with the budget. You know what I mean?
it's true.
They're gonna take every dollar they can get.
Yeah, they're squeezing the money out of their hands.
Yeah.
Totally. That was definitely the case with this. And in May of 1954, Herb Ryman, another legendary Imagineer, he created the original ride plan concept drawings for the attraction. So, just to recap, Disneyland opens July 17th, 1955. It is May of 1954, and we're drawing the first drawing for the concepts of the ride.
Wild.
1 year before opening.
That's wild.
With revisions by Marvin Davis coming in August of 1955, before the Imagineer that we talked about before, Bill Martin, then created the track layout designs in November. So now we're in November, just a handful of months before opening, and now we've got a track layout. So great. It was at this point that Disney contracted the Cleveland Tram Rail Company to provide the overhead rail system, which was bolted to the steel roof girders, and a small 1 horsepower motor was used for each ride vehicle to propel them along the monorail cranes along the track, which were modified to hook the fiberglass ride cars into them.
Mhm.
So it was this monorail overhead system that was originally used for like manufacturing purposes, for transportation systems. They took that and they modified the like sliding cranes to be able to accommodate hooking a ride car onto them.
Did this make you nervous when you were little?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It actually gave me a nightmare.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this was one of my earliest nightmares.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
That I was going to fall
Yeah.
off into the
Well,
depths of
when
the
you're
ride.
flying above London, it really looks like you're really, really high up.
Absolutely.
Do you know actually how high up you are?
Yes. The ride system, well, it was exactly what they wanted because it let them do the flying over the scenes. And the track was a max height of 16 feet in the air above the show scenes, but then the ride vehicles descend 6 feet from the overhead track.
I love that swoop part.
The swoop part is really satisfying.
Yeah. They use a lot of forced perspective in this.
Exactly. So, because you descend down 16 feet from the track, you're never more than 10 feet above the show scenes. It feels a lot higher because of forced perspective.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
It's kind of crazy that you're that close to some of them.
Is that the section of the ride that you had a nightmare about? Or do you not know?
No, my nightmare took place in the load. The load section of the attraction. It was just like I was afraid that it was gonna fall off of the overhead track and I was gonna crash into like the mechanics of the ride.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh gosh, it's gonna get me. It's gonna eat me. I was like terrified. So yeah, that I don't know why that particular attraction implanted its way into my nightmares like that, but whatever.
Yeah, go on.
Anyway, the rigging originally allowed the ride vehicles to swing along back and forth. So when you would have those turns that it would take in the ride vehicles would then swing along with the turn, and guests started to rock
of course they did.
The ride
like
cars.
On Mine Train.
Like on Mine Train, but in a way more kind of precarious situation, because Bob Gurr said that one time when guests were rocking the boat, they rocked it so much that it became lodged in the drywall of the attraction, forcing a shutdown. So they rocked it so much at just the wrong spot that they got it stuck on the wall.
Did they get in trouble?
He doesn't continue to tell any more details of the story. I don't know if that's something that you would get in trouble for. Honestly, I think that's Disney's
I
fault.
think I think that they should get in trouble. So last time we rode Rise of the Resistance, the people in front of us were like spinning the head of
Oh, yeah.
the drone that like takes your car or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous they were gonna break the droid. I was so nervous they were gonna break them.
I know. It is
And
a little...
oh my god, this is probably thousands of dollars of damage you could do, and in that case as well.
I'm not saying I would have swung the ride cars like that. That's
Yeah.
a little, that's beyond the
Well,
behavior.
we do swing the mine train cars.
Yeah, but not beyond what you would
Not beyond
think.
reason.
Exactly. We're reasonable people. We're not we're not getting things lodged in drywall.
No, we're gently rocking.
Bumper would love us.
Okay,
He would love us.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So they took the swinging away entirely.
Eventually, yeah.
Did ours have swinging? No.
No, they had already kind of figured that out by then.
People
Thank
can't
God.
handle this.
Because of this swinging, I'm sure they figured it out. Other Imagineers involved were Ken Anderson and Claude Coates, both icons. And they completed the scenic design and the ride's interiors. They hand painted the load area mural.
Oh, wow.
And that was originally the only spot you could see Peter Pan or the Darling Children. They were not in the original actual ride at all beyond the mural, which was very controversial with
yes.
guests.
You were telling me this a while back, and I didn't remember it that way because I'd never seen it that way.
Yes.
So when did this change?
I'm actually going to get...
You can tell me later.
1957
So
is the short
originally,
answer.
it's what you had told me weeks ago, where it was, you're supposed to be Peter Pan.
You are Peter Pan,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Which was the same as Snow White. There was no Snow White. You are Snow White. And I think the same as Mr. Toad. There was no...
Right.
Yeah, there was no Mr. Toad. You are Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
Very different from how we do rides now. Now,
they're really...
imagine a Frozen ride without Anna and Elsa.
Yeah, they were really expecting you as the consumer to understand their backstory or their story or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't think people do that.
Nope.
We love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's like role play.
Yeah.
Almost. Like you have to be Peter Pan. Think like Peter Pan. They were like, what?
Yeah.
Didn't translate. So the original ride layout was a simpler version of what we have now. The ride vehicles were the same type of thing, a pirate galleon, and you started...
Galleon?
Yeah, I guess that's what they call that type of boat.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know either. You enter in the load area, you go through the nursery, you fly out the window, and then that's when you get that iconic London flyover scene, which had a really charming kind of vibe to it. People loved the idea of flying over the town of London.
Yeah. So I cannot remember the story, but at one point I remember hearing that there was something cool about the moving cars down in London.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yes, I do know. The London scene has a lot of cool effects in it now, projection effects, but this was like the OG original movement effect in there. They had, along the roadways, they had like all of these lights that would travel and it would look like cars.
Yeah.
But the way that they achieved that was by painting spots of luminescent paint onto bicycle chains.
Oh my god.
And they would pull the bicycle chain with like a motor, I'm assuming, and the chain's movement would simulate the movement of a car along the road.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
You would never think
and so low budget.
So, yeah, right? I can so picture them
we could
hastily slapping paint onto the bicycle chain.
So it's not like that anymore.
I think it is like that now.
Oh, cool.
I think it is like that now, but they've also now, in that same London scene, now they've got projections on the clock tower, projections in the Thames River, like they've got all kinds of stuff. I really like
the old school hacks.
I know.
I like when they're still there.
Charming.
Yeah.
So completely
even
charming.
Even like the mirror in the Haunted Mansion.
The ballroom scene.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great example.
OG.
Practical effects.
Yeah,
we
practical
love that.
Effect, cheap, probably.
Probably, yeah.
All right.
So after they flew past the Starfield, guests would then fly over a blacklight paint model of Neverland, and it didn't have any of the like detailed sections that it has now. So there was it was like just a model. No mermaids, no native village, and no Lost Boys hideout. Just
Yeah.
just a
I forgot
model.
about that change. That change was pretty recently.
That was pretty
Anyway,
recently.
you'll get there.
Yeah, we will. But it was just the mountains and the forest basically,
Okay.
and like
Painted.
waterfalls and stuff.
But
Yeah.
3D.
But 3D. It
Okay.
was like a full model, but it was just really far away.
Yeah.
So you didn't have any really of the detailed vignettes that they have now, like the things that we were just talking about.
Okay.
It was just Neverland, and then they flew through the left eye of Skull Rock to arrive upon a scene where Captain Hook and Smee were holding Tiger Lily prisoner before you see TikTok Croc, and that's it. That was the whole ride.
But we don't do that now.
You
right?
don't. I don't think you fly.
You don't fly through Skull.
You
Rock.
don't fly through Skull Rock
and
anymore.
they're not holding Tiger Lily.
Yeah, it's a different. It's a different situation.
Yeah.
It's similar, but they reworked it quite a bit. Especially in the 80s was the big rework.
Okay.
But this was the first remodel, 1957. This is when we got Peter Pan. So you were asking, when does Peter Pan come? Enough people had complained by 1957, which is only a couple years into the ride opening. It was an opening day attraction in 1955. So 2 years later, Peter Pan arrives in the ride as a figure, and the ride vehicles are resculpted and given a limited range of swing possible motion to avoid more
and this
problems.
Is pre-animatronics, because this was because the first animatronic was a Tiki in the 60s.
Right. So we've got static Peter Pan.
They're just statues.
Yes, and that's what happened with Snow White. Snow White at first was just a cutout. Like just a
cardboard cutout.
Yeah, I think wood probably, but literally yes, like a flat cutout.
Yeah.
Basically, might as well have been cardboard. So that was our first big change, and then we got another one in 1960 when Yale Gracie.
Crazy, the technology to let you fly, but a cutout, a flat. Okay.
I know. Isn't that so funny?
It is.
Bicycle chains and cardboard cutouts, baby. That's what the magic's made
flying.
of. I know.
Okay. All right.
Well, it comes together to make an experience.
Sure. They get there in the end, yeah.
So you know how in the Haunted Mansion there's Master Gracie?
Yeah.
He's named after Imagineer Yale Gracie, who in 1960 oversaw the repainting and redesign of all of the sets and characters, while Bob Gurr oversaw the updated track and vehicle mechanics in Disneyland. So that was the last major update to the Disneyland one before the Magic Kingdom version opened in 1971. And when the 1971 version opened in Walt Disney World, it was a longer attraction and a bigger attraction with expanded scenes. And that's when we first get a version of Neverland that has the Lost Boys Camp and the Mermaid Lagoon.
Okay.
So now we've got all this additional detail and a new finale with Peter Pan and Captain Hook sword fighting on the Jolly Roger, the Darling Children cheering Peter on, and the final scene where they're all at the wheel of the pirate ship getting ready to sail off into the night sky. So all of that is original to our version of the ride, the Magic Kingdom version.
Okay.
Which is cool. We get to call dibs on, all those really classic Peter Pan scenes.
Right.
That got added in to kind of fill out the ride a little more.
Yeah, to make it make a little bit more sense, I think.
Yeah, it more closely resembles the movie this way, I think. And probably what guests were expecting from the experience in the first place.
Yeah.
You know? So in 1982 in Disneyland, now we've got a big change. So it's been over 10 years since the Magic Kingdom version has opened, and the Disneyland version starting to feel a little bare bones, because it was comparatively.
Yeah.
So that's when we get the new Fantasyland project beginning. Tony Baxter was the one that saw that all of the scenes were redone and expanded, kind of similar to the approach that they took to the Magic Kingdom version.
Okay.
When the attraction reopened in 1983, there was a new nursery scene. And there's something in this attraction that is not a hidden Mickey, I would say, but is like a little nod, a little fun tribute.
A little Easter egg?
Yes, and that happened in the nursery scene. The blocks, when you read them backwards, spell out the word Disney, a tribute to Walt Disney.
Wait, backwards? So it said Yin said?
Yeah. and the
The
I is a
tag, yeah.
1. So it's even more,
Oh,
you know.
fun.
But yeah, so if you can,
Very this age passwords.
yes, yes, it does sound like a password for
Yeah.
your My Disney Experience login, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it's like a hidden Mickey, just an even more deep cut Disney kind of reference, I feel.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in 1983 we get that. We get a new Neverland model with the native village and a mermaid lagoon. And now instead of flying through the eye of Skull Rock, you fly past it. And then there's a new sword fighting finale, like the Magic Kingdom version with Peter Pan and Captain Hook.
But still not moving?
At this point, they are moving
Oh,
because
okay.
it's 1983.
Yeah, okay,
So
got it,
now
got it.
this is when we get the animatronics that we got in the 1971 Magic Kingdom version. And they're not, I mean, none of the scenes are exactly the same
Okay.
from Walt Disney World to Disneyland. And the differences are like they're fighting on the bow of the ship in one version,
Okay.
but the stern in another
Okay.
version and stuff like that. So maybe
Hardly noticeable.
yeah, not huge story beat size differences, just kind of detail differences.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like
Yeah.
to add some
Oh,
variety
I like it too.
between the versions of the attraction.
I'm looking up pictures to try to see what the picture you're painting, but
Of which version?
oh, I put in 1955, but
Oh, the 1955 version was very bare bones.
they didn't take any. People didn't take pictures.
There were no pictures.
All right, go on.
They were too busy rocking their boats back and forth and getting
Yeah.
them lodged in the drywall. Anyway, this 1982 version was a big update to the attraction, and Tony Baxter was very nervous about it. So much to the point that he says when he saw bulldozers demolishing entire structures from the original Fantasyland, he exclaimed out loud, "What have we done?" Which is so
Fair.
crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Sounds scary.
Yeah.
I think he was feeling a lot of pressure because he says he knew that the Fantasyland dark rides are some of Walt Disney's favorite personal attractions, so he was very nervous about.
Can you imagine? I would be nervous too. Like just redoing one thing.
I know.
Is terrifying, and sometimes the backlash has been horrific.
I know. This was pre-internet, but it was still, there were tons of fans of these rides.
Right.
You know, it was
People were still they just were talking about it
in person
over
the phone.
in letters.
Yeah, there was not even dialogue.
They were making Save Mr. Toad t-shirts.
Oh yes.
It wasn't Save, it was more morbid than that. I can't remember.
It was Don't Murder Mr. Toad or something like that. They were taking it really personally. But this was a similar size of, of a huge change. So I get why he was nervous, but by all accounts, I feel like any changes that have been made to the Peter Pan ride on either coast have always been for the better.
Yeah, well received.
I don't think we've ever gone backwards with this ride, which you would think is, of course not, but
but it happens a lot.
We've covered a lot of unfortunate kind of outcomes of this same situation where they take a big swing and people hate it.
Yeah.
So it's not most of the time, but it does happen, and I feel like it's great that this one,
I think
there have been a lot of updates and they've all been good.
But they're all sticking to the movie.
Yep, they're all just to make the ride more, more like bringing the movie to life.
The only one I could see people getting upset about, although I wouldn't get upset, is for the same reason as when we were talking about the Tiki Room and when we were talking about Country Bear, is that they changed the coloring of one of the mermaids to make her Ariel.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't even say that, did they? That's just like what we interpreted as a red-headed, purple seashell-covered
I think
mermaid.
That is the case. I actually didn't go into that particular thing in my research.
Because it was nothing. It was just a change of color.
Exactly. It was just a minor update to the mermaid sequence, the same way we got a minor update to the native village sequence in recent years. And I don't spend I don't spend a lot of time researching that in this because comparatively the changes are pretty minor. Most people I don't think would necessarily even really notice.
Oh, I don't think anybody would notice. I don't either. I just sometimes people get uppity when you want to add IP.
It's the kind of thing that inspires a lot of passion amongst a certain type of Disney fan.
Yeah,
absolutely. Anyway, so after that, we've gotten new versions of the attraction with various digital enhancements of all kinds. And those were opened in Tokyo Disneyland in 1983, in Disneyland Paris in 1992, and in Shanghai Disneyland in 2016, our most
Cool.
recent Peter Pan's flight. And then, as you know, Tokyo has recently gotten a new Peter Pan attraction in their Fantasy Springs
Yeah.
area. It's different than Peter Pan's flight.
Right.
It's kind of its own thing, but it kind of shows that the popularity of the IP is timeless because he's a classic. Peter Pan.
Yeah.
He's a classic well before Disney even was on the scene. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
People have been loving Peter Pan. Although that version is also obviously huge culturally.
Yeah.
The Disney version. He's in PhilharMagic. I didn't write that down, but I just wanted to bring it up.
Little shout out.
We love PhilharMagic. In 2014, the Magic Kingdom version was upgraded again to include an updated indoor queue. Woo!
Yes.
Everybody
What's your favorite
rejoice.
part?
Of the indoor queue?
Yeah.
The air conditioning.
For real.
Number one, of
For
course.
real.
But if you want me to
The
give like
old queue was so awful.
It was like switchback.
Yes.
Switchbacks to the
end.
end.
We were like so close to so many people for like a really, really long time.
And a lot of it was outside.
Yes.
Which is so awful.
Awful.
And the part that is inside is like half inside, half outside.
Yeah, and you're like crushed with people all around you.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. And the Disneyland one, correct me if you've been on the Disneyland one. I think the queue is similar. I don't think they've gotten a better version. I think their queue is...
I didn't go on it the last time I was in Disneyland because it's I think it's identical to ours, so but anyway.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
I
guess it's not identical. You said there's little changes.
But the story is the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, apart from some minor differences, but yeah. So the way that they renovated the queue was that they removed restrooms. There were restrooms there in the Peter Pan area, and they took them out. They opened the Tangle restrooms where the Disney Skyway used to have a terminal.
Sky buckets. Yeah.
It is Sky Buckets. I'll take that.
Yeah, there were bathrooms back there. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah, so they
see it now.
Yeah, right. So they took those out. They opened the Tangled bathroom, and they reconfigured
all at the same time.
All at the same time during the new Fantasyland renovation. They took those restrooms out, and then they used that space to have an indoor queue, which is great because not only is it air conditioned, like we said, but it also has these really fun interactive effects.
I love the queue. The queue now, the interactive portion of the queue now is like almost as good as the ride.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's like the ride starts, the magic, the fun of the ride starts a little early. I like when Disney does that with queues. It really helps it feel not so...
like you're waiting in line.
Yeah, because it really can be a hard feeling to feel like you're like, you can't move, you know? Like,
especially for one like this that's always at an hour plus wait.
That's true. This is like a very popular attraction, even at this point. So they definitely needed this kind of thing. And if to answer your question of what is your favorite part, if I'm not going to say the air conditioning, I'm going to say it's the Pixie Dust projections in the nursery. I think they are such a magical little touch. Probably cost them very little in the grand scheme of things, but provides me so much entertainment and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I just love that you walk in as well, and it's like London, you're like on a London street, and you walk into their house. And then you see all their beds, you see the pixie dust flying around, the bells and everything. I think it paints such a good picture when you...
It's such a good introduction.
It really is, because you don't get a lot of the nursery in the ride.
Right.
But it kind of starts with you flying out the window of the nursery.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a little bit of a disconnect, because after the nursery part, you go through the like Neverland outdoor part, where it's like flats that depict like greenery and the forest stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Once
In
it
the ride or in the queue?
in the queue.
Oh,
Once you're done waiting in the nursery part, you go to the semi-indoor, semi-outdoor
ah,
part of the queue,
yeah.
and in that part, you're supposed to be in Neverland, kind
Oh,
of.
I didn't even think about that. At
It's
that point, I'm playing trivia.
well, yes, definitely, but also it's not. I don't think it's that big of a deal. First of
You're
all,
not there that long, are you?
you're not. That's really the very end of your
Yeah.
wait, right
Okay.
before you're about to get on your what did I call it? The boat, the pirate ship.
Yeah.
Please.
I don't know what you called it. That information is gone.
Yeah, that's okay. Gallium,
Gallium.
pirate gallium. What if? Yeah, I had no idea. Anyway, yeah, that was the last major update to the Magic Kingdom version, and then in 2015 in Disneyland, they got new projection effects. Now the Darling Children are like full figures that levitate with pixie dust, and they've got new projection effects in London. The second star to the right becomes animated. There's a bunch of there's new clock tower projections on Big Ben. So they did a lot to kind of digitally enhance the ride, and that follows the trend that like the international parks have been doing to like make it more modern and entertaining in
Yeah.
a way that the modern audience would connect with. So it's gotten a lot of updates, and here's a fun fact: the only things original to the 1955 version of the ride in Disneyland are the Nana figure in the nursery, which is adorable.
Adorable.
And
Outside the nursery, right?
oh yeah, outside the nursery doing the barking of it all.
Okay. The galliums.
The galleons.
Are they the same?
What, the boats?
Yeah.
No, they
What?
changed them. They widened them.
Oh.
Now they fit more people.
Got it.
Which is good. That was when they took away the rocking. When they took away the rocking, they changed the ride vehicle. It all makes
Okay.
sense to me.
Yeah,
I get it. So the only things original to the ride are the Nana figure and a set piece in the London scene.
It's a good Nana figure.
It is, right? To survive all this time.
Yeah.
I bet they've done some
That's
internal.
Not a cardboard
No. No, it's not. I bet they've done some internal maintenance on her to keep her running so smoothly. So the only original things are her, and in the London scene, there's a depiction of Nelson's column, which is like a pillar with the Admiral Nelson atop it. And that one tiny particular set piece and the Nana animatronic are the only things from the 1955 version that were there on the opening of the ride. Everything else has been completely replaced at one point or another throughout
the bike thing didn't survive.
No,
they replace it.
New bike chains, probably on an electronically monitored motor.
They don't have a guy down there doing it anymore.
Yeah, everyone's least favorite cast member of the day has to pull the bike chains all day long.
Yeah.
Poor Tom. That is the only original thing from the Disneyland version. Kind of crazy that that's the only thing to survive, but it is kind of great that it's lasted all of these years and has had so many changes, but it still has the same feeling and vibe as the original.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's where we are now with Peter Pan's Flight.
Can you explain to me why people wait 5 hours?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? It's so wild to me because It's a Small World arguably is a similar quality of like
same nostalgia,
classic nostalgia vibes.
But it has like a 15-minute wait.
Maybe people really do love the sensation of the flying around above the. I mean, I have to say,
it has a longer wait than Soarin'.
I know that is. When you think about that, it really does blow the mind.
I get why it's popular. I love the ride. I like going on it when I can. I go on it more often than some of the others. When less so now that free fast pass isn't a thing, if I'm being honest.
No, yeah.
Because I'm not going to wait for 4 hours.
I don't think we've ridden it together since they made that change.
Yeah,
I think the last time we rode it was...
Because the wait's so long, and I don't quite understand.
Yeah, because it's also...
It's got to be the second most popular wait time right attraction in Magic Kingdom.
behind Seven Dwarfs at
Yeah.
this point. I think that's right. So much so to the point that it's one of those things that people say you have to rope drop. You
And
have to.
and sometimes they're flipped. Sometimes Peter Pan's
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah, sometimes Peter Pan is the longest wait in the whole park. I think it's got to be a combination.
Love it. Don't get me wrong.
No, I completely understand. It's surprising, but I think we've talked about this once before, and it was when we covered Snow White. It's coming back to me that we were discussing that when they got rid of that, it limited. We have so few Fantasyland dark rides now.
That's a good point.
You know,
I do like the flying, and I get the flying is different.
Yeah.
But the other thing is it's an omni mover, like a lot of the Disney attractions. So
Yeah.
it's constantly moving unless it needs to stop to let on somebody that's handicapped or something like that. Which means that it should be like also pumping out people.
I thought that too, but when I was doing, I didn't actually take like notes on this, but the things that I was reading were saying that it's one of the lower, like, it eats people slower
Okay.
than
So maybe it's physically slower.
I think it's because of the slow moving boats and the fact that so few people fit on each ride vehicle. I think
it is the same as Haunted Mansion.
It is, but it takes
maybe it's
longer to
shorter.
load.
The ride is shorter.
The ride is a lot
A
shorter.
lot shorter than Haunted Mansion.
The ride, I believe, is like 2 minutes long. Very, very
Every
short.
time I get off of it, I'm like, God, that was so short, and the line was so long.
And you know what's so funny? The Disneyland.
Is it even 2 minutes short?
It is. Long? It's 2 minutes long.
Okay.
But what's so funny is that when they did all of that work to bring in 1983, well, starting in 1982, to bring the Disneyland version to the expanded version of the ride that existed kind of in Magic Kingdom, they did all of that work. Guess how much time they added? 20 seconds. All of that work, and they got 20 seconds.
20 seconds in a 2-minute ride is a big percentage.
Big fraction for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it wasn't worth it. It just goes to show you that this ride is crazy, crazy short.
Yeah.
Crazy short. And I think that must have a lot to do with it. So I think between between like that logistical reasoning and the fact that now there are fewer Fantasyland dark rides than ever before, I think that together makes for the long wait in my brain.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if there's more of like an algorithmic or whatever reason why the wait accumulates the way it does. That, that's out of my pay range and my knowledge, but that's the only way I've been able to wrap my brain around how Peter Pan always has at least a 2-hour wait when I'm there, it seems. Yeah.
I've seen it recently around the 1 hour mark, but I mean, that's
true. I have seen it like 80, 70, 60 minutes. I have, but even that for a 2-minute ride feels, especially,
especially not a thriller.
For locals, we're like, heck,
But actually, I feel the same way on Rock and Roller Coaster. I'm like, I'm not going to wait an hour for a ride that's less than 2 minutes.
It is, unless there are times when I'm like, oh, I really want to be upside down.
Yeah.
And if you're craving that, then I get that. Yeah, it's a tough one.
I really want to be upside down.
well,
that is your only opportunity in all of Walt Disney World.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I can't believe that's true, but yeah, that's true. So that's Peter Pan's Flight. I wonder if we're going to get more changes to this. I'm sure it'll continue to be updated in some capacity as time goes on. The Disneyland version, I think right now is the coolest version because their last update with the new projection effects is very magical. I've seen some clips. They've added some really cool... Like now when you go to the clock tower, now Peter Pan and the Darling Children land on it just like in the movie.
That's awesome.
They've really added some extra pixie dust into it, and I think it went a long way. And also, I want to say hello to the Nana.
Statue,
the Nana animatronic, which I'm sure barely moves, but
well, it can't be an animatronic.
It's original.
Yeah, it cannot be an animatronic then.
No, they added it in 83, I want to say.
But you said it was original.
Oh, right. It's original, so it must not be. Maybe
No, it's just a statue.
Oh, it's just a static figure?
Yeah, but you're going over it, I guess, so...
No, that was it. Oh, you mean you're flying
over it. Yeah, you're flying over it, so you don't really notice that it's not moving.
Yeah. You know what? Now that I think about it, when I think about our version of this ride, I don't think Nana does do any moving.
Yeah.
Maybe the tail is like on a motor or
No, it
something.
can't be. If this is original, then
Like,
it's got to be a statue.
yeah. Well, she doesn't look particularly.
You only see her for a second. I believe this. I believe that she's a statue.
Yeah, it does make
and that
sense
she's
because it's
from.
right at the
I
beginning.
guess ours could be different. You're saying ours could be different than Disneyland's, and Disneyland's could be a statue because
Yeah.
it's from 1955.
Yeah, the
That's
Nana,
true.
the one in Disneyland, I don't think moves because of what you're
It can't,
saying,
yeah.
like 1955.
Yeah.
But I think ours might have
A
like
little.
some slight movement to
Yeah,
it
okay.
because it was the 70s and we had animatronics by
Yeah,
then. You know,
why not?
plenty. Yeah, right. Spruce it up a little. All right, I'm done. That's it for Peter Pan's flight.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was actually pretty fun.
This was fun.
In doing research for this, I didn't know that they had made all of those changes.
Yeah.
And that the original Disneyland version seemed kind of boring. To
Oh
me.
yeah.
But it was a
Weird.
hit, you know, to them at the time.
Oh, I still think it would have been mind blowing.
Yes,
Yeah.
because, you know, they were suspended from the.
Yeah, when
yeah.
does that happen?
Not in your day-to-day life. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this flight through the history of Peter Pan. If you guys would like to see more content on Disney history or in-park content, we've got all of it on offer on the social media account at Neverland Navco on both Instagram and TikTok, and we would love to see you over there.
Yes, we also have an Etsy shop called Neverland Navigation. You just search Neverland Navigation on Etsy. And we do t-shirts and dish towels and sweatshirts. They're custom, so just send us a message or tell us what you like which characters, which rides, whatever. And I will send you some design options. We'll go from there.
Yes, we're off to shake some pixie dust all over your next vacation. So until then, we'll see you on our next adventure. Goodbye.